Hello, everyone. We're here with another fine episode of the Apex Coalition show for you today. It is getting very close to August. Next week is August, actually. That's fantastic. And we're going to be talking all about keepers for the Apex Coalition League today. I'm here joined by, of course, Curn, Jack, and Lippy. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, good sir.
I love the respect that always happens for who's going to talk about their day first.
You don't want to bust out wide open first, you know?
I always just assumed Curn would go first because he has the worst manners out of everyone on the show.
I have the loudest voice, that's for sure, so I try to stay back at the start.
Curn has the best bird manners. Give him a break.
Curn, you are Catholic, correct? Am I correct in thinking that? Right?
Yes, I was raised Catholic. Yes.
Like, when you went to confessional, did everyone in the church know what you did? Like, I'm just imagining you in the booth, and I stole Jimmy's lunch. His ham sandwich was too tasty. I'm sorry.
A&F. I was actually talking to Annie about it the other day. Like, my first confessional, like, it's like a big event. Like, it's like your first, like, inaugural, first confession.
First communion, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a big deal. So you I went through and like wrote all the terrible things I did, like all the cookies I stole off the shelf and shit, and I went in there like ready to roll. And I was like ready to clean my palate of all my sins, and yeah, it was a hoot. I don't know if anyone heard me. My voice hadn't really, my massive voice box hadn't developed by then. I was still a wee little curb, but definitely
that'd be hysterical.
Definitely pays dividends now.
Yeah. Well,
but my day's doing great. How's your day, Alexander?
Oh, it's better now that I'm talking to y'all. What we're gonna do real quick before we jump into sleeper keepers and the Apex League stuff. Real quick, I'm gonna put two of you on the spot, experts in the field. Curn, how many weeks does Michael Thomas miss?
Ooh, they're saying 12 to 16, so I'd probably be back around middle of October, late October. Like, it's not good.
You said 12 to 16, and then you came up with October. Oh, from now, okay. He's gonna be back at Thanksgiving, Curn.
Yeah, I mean, the initial prognosis was like middle of October. So I mean, with all this news now, yeah, probably like November. So everyone's sad. No one's having fun.
Let me ask this. Jack gets this question. Is he draftable?
1,000%.
Where do you take him?
Well, I mean, obviously we're on a keeper dollar system. I'll keep that close to my chest because I think he's draftable. But I'm gonna go point out really quick that the Saints' first bye week is week 6, and
open to have him on 7 or 8.
I'm just saying. Like, if you were to get an asset, you obviously would get some sort of discount, right?
Especially for keepers, yeah.
And I mean, just. We'll see if anyone lets him slip to a certain dollar value.
He'll still be snagged.
The idea of
someone
7 people.
Somebody last year had the same thought that he'd be a value. He could sit on my bench for 6 weeks and he could be used in week 15 and 16. Sadly, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Especially
that person didn't draft him.
But those foot surgeries, I mean.
The good news is that
unless he's $2, he's not worth it. Curn, are you going to give us extra COVID slots?
What Camp in New Orleans reports saying that this is his first and only surgery. So at first, I don't know where I got this idea from, but I thought he had already had a surgery on it to get it repaired. But this is his first surgery. It should be a first, final, major surgery to clean it up, and then. Apparently, the reason we're doing it is because it's like one fix-all ordeal. So, I mean, he's definitely the benefit is you get to draft him, obviously, and then you immediately put him into like IR. You're just basically a taxi squad, so you get a free bench spot. So there's definitely a benefit. He'll definitely won't go for like $1. Like, when his name pops up, he'll get. I mean, no one's gonna sleep on Michael Thomas in the draft. I mean, it definitely sucks as a Saints fan, and if you have Jameis Winston or if you're hyping Jameis Winston up, like, this definitely speaks more towards, the Saints rolling the whole Taysom Hill experiments, because, I don't know, it's all bad.
So, Curn, are we going to have extra bench slot or extra COVID slots again this year? Or are you going to take the same stance as the NFL and say, fuck off if you're not vaccinated?
I was still going to keep some extra. I mean, like, I kind of like the extra IR slots. I never had an issue with it. I mean, I feel like it was kind of nice having them because, I
agree.
I don't know. Like, maybe I won't have, like, I can't remember off the top of my head how many we had last year. I think it was maybe 5, maybe even 6. Yeah, 6. Maybe we'll do like 4 or 3. Maybe we'll just cut it down.
I would generally voice that we should go to 4 or 3. Like, not as many.
Yeah, like definitely not 6. 6 is probably a lot. I think 4 or 3 is a good number.
Yeah.
All right. Our last question of the news is for Lippy. Who is the running back to own for the Rams now that Cam Akers has gone out for the year?
It's Darrell Henderson, sir. I mean, we're not going to buy that smoke that Xavier Jones or some random people off the street are going to do better than a guy who was drafted, right?
Is anyone in the chat buying Xavier Jones?
Xavier Jones belongs to the streets, enough.
Okay. He's not on y'all's teams. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. I just had to...
I'd buy some Todd Gurley reunion.
Oh.
I do think they bring someone in. Like, because Xavier Jones and all those guys in the depth chart are, like, basically made up meme characters from Madden, like, I don't think you have Darrell Henderson by himself. So they're going to bring someone in. I think the future of Cam Akers and the future of Darrell Henderson speaks to what kind of guy they bring in. Like, if they bring in, like, AP or, like, some veteran guy who can just fill the void. But if they, like, make a trade, like, I've heard, like, rumblings that they might trade for, like, Kareem Hunt, which is, like, very much extraordinary circumstance. But, like, if they do that, obviously, it's like, well, shit, they've got a new dude, and, my opinion might change.
I'm just saying that the Jags should definitely trade Robinson on over there.
Oh, yeah.
As a Henderson owner in Dynasty, I would hate to see it, but as someone that was immediately on the trade Robinson for value train, and everyone said, you're an idiot, I'd like to see that, just to be right.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I just don't think they'll do it.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think Robinson gets traded at all. Okay, so we're going to jump into it. We broke down the keepers in order of division, just to keep it organized for us. We're just going to go through team by team and kind of look at everyone's keeper situation. Obviously, there are more, but we didn't put Frank Gore for market up. We put the most interesting keeper options and what we thought were the most feasible keeper options up. So let's go ahead and get started with easily the worst keeper situation in the league, Curn.
It's tough in these streets, ANF. It's tough.
So, Curd, you've got Josh Allen for market, which, as we know, is equivalent to the tight end 3 or whatever Robert Tonyan was. So he's going to be
not off the table. Not off the table.
Expensive. You've already gone on record saying you're not keeping Christian McCaffrey. Tell us what likelihood that's a lie.
I mean, it still tickles my toes, ANF. It's so hard. I play at the tape, and it's like, yes, obviously looking at the screen, the viewers at home, you can see. And for anyone who doesn't know, when we say market keeper, the rules we have set in place, and this is I think we discussed this in one of our episodes, just to remind everyone, it's based on the set market prices from ESPN at the time of the draft, which usually, CMC will probably be between $65 and $75 probably. So
Incorrect. CMC has gone for... Last year, he was a market keeper at 74. 2019, he was a market keeper at 67. 2018, he would have been kept in our first year of keepers.
I stand completely correct. He might go between
expensive.
66 and 80, not 65 and 65. Maybe $80. So regardless, it'll be somewhere around there, give or take a $5 variance, I think. But regardless, it's very tough to let him hit the buying pool because of he's such a difference making cornerstone asset to have in your lineup. But it's a dilemma I'm still dealing with ANF, where it's like I could keep those 2 decent running backs for sub $50 going to the draft with heavy change in my pockets, and I can get into a bidding war with one of y'all for CMC out the gates, which is probably more beneficial and probably what I'll end up doing. But it is tough to look at it and say, like, God, I could just get CMC for probably less than what he'll go for in the draft, and
certainly less than what he'll go for in the draft.
Yeah, but JT's probably a shoe-in for, I mean, he's a projected first-round guy. Yeah, there's question marks around him, but I'm paying, a back-end RB1 price for him probably with a $34 price tag. So I'm okay with that. I mean, DeAndre Swift, that's a pretty throbbing value right there. So, I mean, probably not keeping Scary Terry, so not really a whole lot to say on my end. It's probably going to be Josh Tip. It's probably going to be Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift, but you might see a surprise CMC keeper.
I have a question for you. You just said that CMC would go for more than his market price. So you're saying there's a keeper bump when we get in the draft room?
I mean, there might be look, he's one of those, he's on the, if you look at like a deviation bar, he's on the end where he's one of the he is one of the exceptions, the extraordinary circumstance where he probably would go for more than what he's listed. Because he's the number one overall pick. It depends how much the guys with 200, close to 200 draft bucks in their wallet are willing to spend on.
Interesting to hear that.
So you're going to trade him for some draft bucks then, Curn? That's what it sounds like to me.
I would happily do it. It is an option. I think that he's one of the few high caliber, him and Cook are probably the two highest. Well, I think Cook was actually drafted last year, but CMC is probably the highest. Him and Kamara are probably the two running backs you could probably trade and say, hey, you get the rights to keep him, which is probably an asset in itself on someone's books, and you just give me a fee for it. But who's to say? We'll see.
Curn, I don't want to spend too much more time about this, but we have heard reports from camp regarding Swift and Jonathan Taylor that running backs such as, and I've heard this from a beat writer for Detroit, that Jamar Jefferson is a real threat to getting carries, and that Marlon Mack is going to be the first down back. What do you think about those reports?
I'll be very quick so we can move on. But you want to draft, for anyone at home, my take is you want to draft running backs who get the high yielding touches. Like if you want to take Jamal Williams as a depth piece, he might get you. Jamal Williams might very well get 15 touches a game. That wouldn't surprise me with how shitty this team is. They're going to be doing everything they can to move the ball, but it's going to be between the 20s. Like once they get in the red zone, I'd be pressed.
I'd be pressed. We'll move on now to
Dustin. That DeAndre Swift doesn't catch every high valuable yielding touch.
Excellent options for Dustin. Very interesting indeed. Russell Wilson for $7 is a great start at a nice top-tier QB discount. I think we'll all agree on that. But what has to be the crowning achievement of the youngest member of Apex's career is acquiring through well-organized trade and a keen nose for value is Antonio Gibson for $2. Curn, I know we just had you on the spot, but I know that you claim to be good at trading in fantasy football in general. Can you talk us through why you didn't make such a good move to have Antonio Gibson for $2?
I drafted Antonio Gibson for $2.
Did you? Did you? Okay.
I 100% did. And I remember in the draft, y'all laughed at me saying, LOL, I guess he just likes Antonio Gibson that much.
Well, there were reporters talking about Bryce Love. We can't forget
I was getting trolled for my Antonio Gibson love all off season. And look, I made a trade early before the season. It was a mistake. We were at a bachelor trip. I was hyped. We were in the car. Just, testosterone was flowing. It was getting hot and heated. And, I made a move. And just so happens,
car ride.
AP gets cut. People get traded. Lenny's on, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All kinds of foul shit occurred, and it was a perfect storm. Great job, Dustin. You got a good value.
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
There are reports about his toe, though. How do you feel about that? Anyone want to chime in on that?
Well, he's got 10 toes, and he's only $2. It's still a value, so he'll be just fine.
That's some outstanding analysis there about his toes. So yeah.
Dustin, I will say, if you're watching, I don't know if you have many more options than just keeping these two fellas, but man, that's a nice $9 start to your draft, sir. Moving on, we've got Kcole. He's got a little bit more options, I think, with some excellent QB keeper options. And, of course, Marlon Mack, the RB1 for the Indianapolis Colts. Jack, if we were to put you in Kcole's shoes, who would you choose?
Lauren Hawkinson, and that's it. There's really actually no good keepers here. Keeping, look, I'm going to go out and say, like, Kyler's a great keeper. I do not agree with anyone's take if it's shared amongst you guys with A&F that Russ for $7 is a good keeper.
What? That's ridiculous.
Look, I don't think that. I've done a pretty decent read of where market prices are right now. Market has Mahomes and Josh Allen at $12 or $13 right around now. Kyler, Russ, and everyone else is still floating in that $7 range. And as you know, the benefit of keepers is the spread that you get for keeping them versus what you could just go draft them for. And so, like, in all reality, you probably get someone of Joe Burrow's caliber for $2 to $3. You probably get a Cooper Kupp. You'd be better off going to redraft someone in that $19 range that potentially has keeper value next year than keeping him for that. If I'm Kcole, I take my tight end position, who's going to get fed by Jared Goff with no other real options in Detroit, and probably a consensus top 3 QB this year, and run into the draft with $190. We'll get to me later, but I, by default, have to let go of one of what people would most likely consider a top 5 running back, so there will be someone out there for you to buy. That's what I would do.
Oh, man.
Russell Wilson for $7 is a bad deal.
That's a terrible deal.
Look,
terrible.
I know from last year's draft that there was someone in the draft who drafted Daniel Jones for $3. All right? Some of these clowns, not naming names like me, overpay for bad quarterbacks. $7 for Russell Wilson's a great deal. Every year these quarterbacks go crazy.
The quarterback market value, and Jack makes a really good point on looking at, I think the idea and the principle behind what you're doing, like the thought process behind it is real and accurate. But I do think just looking at historical buy rates of what we do of like our league and quarterbacks, I think that's the position where quarterbacks go for a lot more than the ESPN listed price. And I think the high caliber dual threat quarterbacks, unless the rest of the league's not on the same page, I think that it's looking like, those, and that's why as we look through more teams, we'll see, like, I called it out earlier, like, we might have 4 or 5 quarterback keepers this year because having that elite tier quarterback, whereas in the past, you used to be like, oh, you could just fade quarterback and take, some turd for $1 later, but we're seeing now that the new, prototypical dual threat quarterback is so valuable now to have. And it's like, Russell Wilson, I still consider him as one of those guys. He kind of slowed up last year a little bit, but he still was a top, guy for weeks for Dustin. So I think it's a good value for him to keep him. I think that let him hit the draft room. I wouldn't be surprised if he went for 10 or 12. I think that Josh Allen and Mahomes go for way more than 12 or 13 as well. That's just me.
Yeah.
But I don't like keeping Russell Wilson for $7. I'd rather keep another skill player, but I think it's not a terrible option for him.
So by Jack's logic, by the time we get to his team, he won't even consider Mahomes for 15 because that's not even a value compared to market.
It's for my team, Lippy, right? Like it's what do I consider? Like, do I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go for more than $15 in the draft? And do I think that the spread that I get from keeping Cookie, Eckler, or Henry compared to what I would have to pay if I let one of those guys go, would I make up the ability to draft the extra dollars to pay for Patrick Mahomes with that? And the reality is our league had 10 quarterbacks last year that were drafted for more than $1. One was a keeper Lamar Jackson for $2, which makes it 11 quarterbacks that were worth more than $1. So by default last year, there was a QB1 that was drafted for $1. And so if you're looking for value, if you're looking for what are people going to do, it by default means that there is not a significant amount of value to be saved by retaining a quarterback for $7.
No, and I totally agree. I was just more pointing to this top high end, like the gold tier status quarterback in the QB1 conversation. Like not like Tom Brady's probably a quarterback one this year, but he's not. That's not who I'm really referring to.
I mean, we had 5 quarterbacks that went for $7 or more. 4 of them went for exactly $7.
Yeah, I think it's going to be much, much larger of a disparity this year. I think, at least maybe that's just me speaking out loud in my strategy, is I noticed how valuable I've been noticing, we've all kind of caught, we've all caught onto the trend that these high-end tight ends have been winning championships. So it's in the last couple of years, that's been kind of a good, area to try to get into early. And just last year and the year before, it seemed like if you have these high caliber, top 5, top 6, dual threat quarterbacks that can get you 35 points a week, it's it's such an advantage to have one of those guys on your team. But I mean, I see your point. Your point with your keeper situation is you have much more valuable players, I think, that you can keep compared to Dustin specifically. But Dustin, I mean, I think with his team, going back to the slides, he could keep Chris Godwin from market price, Miles Sanders. I see that point, but it's if you could just secure your quarterback situation, shore it up, and then just keep it all like an awesome running back option for $2. I don't think that's necessarily quote unquote a bad keeper situation.
I mean, you can't put a price on peace of mind, Curn. And if you could lock in a quarterback, I mean, that's like having an ADT home security system. The sponsor of today's show, we want to say thank you to ADT. Excellent segue in there for our first sponsor. Go out there, get the blue sign in your yard, everybody. Support the show. Let's go.
Is there a link? Is there a link for them to use?
ADT.com/getstuffed. Make sure to enter promo code APEX.
That's fun.
Yeah, big announcement there. Let's move on to Jonah. And some great keeper options here for Jonah. What immediately jumps off the page, and Curn and I were talking about this before the show, is Robbie Anderson for $4.
That's pretty sick. It's definitely sick.
It's pretty nice. And Jerry Jeudy for $8. And we'll know more this week if Rodgers goes to Denver, or if Rodgers goes to Jeopardy, or if Rodgers goes to somewhere, or
Rodgers is going to retire.
Yeah, I think he's going to the Cayman Islands. Yeah, the sad peanut butter gif right there. Honestly, Jonah's in a great spot, I think. I don't think any of these 4 or combination thereof would leave him sad. I mean, Jonah, Robbie Anderson for 4 is a great deal. That's all I'll say.
I feel like Keenan Allen for 17 is the no-brainer there.
Absolutely. I
mean, it's in the situation. He's getting 180 targets this year, if not maybe 100.
What's so funny is that because of Jonah's keepers that he went into last draft with, he comes into this draft with such exceptional receiver keeper options because he had no money to spend on his receivers.
Very true.
I mean, everyone was starving him out during the auction trying to bid up all these receivers, and we were left just laughing at his dismal receiver options. But as the season went on and trades happened, obviously that changed. So that's a little funny, but all in all, pretty good division keeper options wise. I think that you've got some real value with Kcole, Dustin, and Jonah, and they're going to have quite a bit of draft dollars to spend. And obviously, Curn is the sore thumb who has nothing going for him in this draft. But everything else about this division really seems very successful. So,
I mean, should we talk about that? I don't think there's been a single champion in Apex history that's ever kept 2 receivers. But Jonah's only running back keeper option is currently going in the market in the RB16 to RB20 category for no real discernible reason. But if we look back at last year's draft, RB16 through RB20 went in the mid $20 range. So if you're Jonah, do you buy into the hype that David Montgomery is just better than RB16 to RB20? Because right now that would just imply that he's saving roughly $3. So I don't know if I generally agree with any take that Jonah has a good keeper situation. I mean, I could see him try and execute, I guess, on the two wide receiver keepers.
Well, I like those keepers. I personally also don't agree that he's a good keeper situation as well. I was just letting ANF pump him up to get him going, but
yeah, I know. I'm trying to actually help Jonah right now. Whenever he listens to this, like, I hope that he realizes, like, this isn't me being a dick. It's like, hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, all fluff removed, and all trolling about Robbie Anderson. Like, look, like he came on and said explicitly Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold connection. So I mean, it might be a good. Like, I might be dead wrong about my DJ Moore love. It might be Robbie Anderson, but I do think Jonah, you should take David Montgomery and Keenan Allen. It's your most expensive options, but that's probably your best bet.
Very dangerous for you to have opinions about Robbie Anderson, Curn, especially if someone were to ever ask you trivia questions about his tenure with the Jets.
I mean, you know, his insane 1.5 year connection with Sam Darnold and Adam Gase. I mean, you just can't coach that ANF.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Sam Darnold, great QB.
Adam Gase was the one overthrowing him and underthrowing him there.
The best keeper. Moving on from all this foulness, the best keeper, obviously, from this division, it is Antonio Gibson. I mean, God, y'all can show me all you want. I'll beat myself up over that. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, that's just a decision I made last year. You get to reap the benefits of Dustin. That's, you know, beautiful. I do think Kcole probably has the second best keeper situation just because of Hawkinson. I mean, like, I think that y'all may not be high on Hawkinson, but he's one of those guys that I think is awesome.
I recognize his value. I'm also very...
It sucks, like $3 to get that locked in.
That's a deal right there. I mean, fuck that.
Yeah, like, that's enough
Daniel
for, like,
fucking Jones last year.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Having your tight end locked up like that is just such, like, it's going to put him ahead of the curb, pun intended, you know, to start everything else. So.
Ahead of the curb, yeah.
Curn, you're not going to get us to compliment your keepers. Like, your keepers.
I'm not talking about my keepers. No, like, I wasn't mentioning about my keepers.
Look, maybe the worst in the league.
I'm stuck.
You should probably keep nobody.
I'm stuck having to keep, you know, two running backs that are kind of questionable right now for sub 50.
Yeah, I mean, keep running backs.
It's tough. I know what's gonna happen.
You just keep nobody got me going. Curn, you have a great keeper situation. I'll say it. I think that arguably, I would actually say that Dustin may have the worst keeper situation. I think Antonio Gibson is a complete trap. I would obviously keep him for $2.
Would you say
keep him for $2?
$2 trap?
Oh my God, Jesus, INF! I'm saying it's a good value. I'm just telling you, I don't think Antonio Gibson is going to be an RB1. I think he finishes the year as a mid-level RB2, maybe worse. And so Dustin ends up with one keeper that's worth roughly $20 to $25 in spread, in my opinion, because I think he is a mid-level RB2, right? So he ends up with a cumulative keeper value of in the mid-20s. And I think Curn probably ends up with $40+ in that spread. Jonah, depending on who he keeps, is probably in the $20 range in terms of value.
Yeah,
and Kcole is probably in the $30 market keeper range. I'm not sure where Hawkinson goes this year. Like, where do you value that in our league? You know, market for those top five. Top five tight ends right now, like, you know, Kelsey's in the 60s, which is insane.
Yeah, that's insane. That's so pricey.
Kittle is. Yeah, Kelsey, last time I checked, was in the $60 range.
Going in the first round.
Golly got him for $40.
That's accurate.
So we'll get to him later.
And so, either way, Kittle, I think, is like mid-30s or low 40s. And then I know that because I was researching for Neal's sake, Waller is 28. And so Hawkinson's right in there somewhere for what spread of value do you get. But I'll go out there and I'll say it out loud that I don't think that Antonio Gibson is going to do much for Dustin because I don't think it's going to convert to nearly the value that the ESPN market says Gibson is at right now.
Where do you think he's finishing? RB1?
I think my nipples. If you could get my nipples any harder, I think I would burst through this T-shirt right now. But just y'all keep going.
What RB finish is Gibson landing, Jack?
15 to 20
for $2. You don't think he's going to get a lot out of him for $2?
And I'm trying to be like as concise as possible. If you get a $2 RB2, right?
That's a fantastic deal.
That's great. But the total value that Dustin gets from keeping him and some other player for which we've discussed that Russ isn't really it doesn't give him any value to market because Russ was $7 last year and the elite QBs last year were all $7. Like maybe you could say that saves him another $1 or $2 to keep Russ. Maybe. And so I don't think Dustin gets a lot out of it comparatively to the fact that right now the market price for Gibson is $50. I personally wouldn't pay anywhere close to that. So I don't think Dustin gets the keeper spread that ESPN market would imply that he's getting right now.
Yeah, I am actually really concerned about the toe. Just the fact that in this part of the year, like if you're not hearing flying, wonderful, juicy coach speak colors, like this guy's lighting it up and this guy's doing great, like any form of bad news is just horrible press. So it's like, but I mean, that's just something to consider going into it. But I mean,
hopefully, he works on his catching at practice too, Curn. So
I'm excited. It's going to be nice. It's the first time in a few years, and we can move on and I'll stop speaking, but this is the first time in a couple of years that I'll be in a situation where I'm, in the draft with probably more than $90, like $80. And that's to my own fault.
Keeping McCaffrey.
That's to my own fault because I was keeping high caliber. I was keeping Gurley and CMC a lot of the years, but this is the first time I'll find myself doing that, so it's going to be interesting. So,
I do have a question for y'all. Obviously, running backs are still as important as always, but I mean, we got Montgomery, Carson, Jacobs at RB 19, 20, or 18, 19, 20 in ADP right now. Running back 18, 19, 20. I don't know the last time you could get a running back that good at 18, 19, or 20.
I know. It's
like,
ridiculous.
Granted, they're still going to go for a decent amount, but that's
Google will keep Carson. Carson's not going to be on the market.
And at the end of the day, if Gibson falters at all of a sudden he's looking at RB 25.
So here's another. Go ahead.
I was going to say keeping Gibson, if anything, it just cuts his liability because it's only a $2, fee. So I mean, that's the other side of it, but that's it.
Let's move on. We can revisit some of these individual teams the closer we get to draft. But let's move on now, and these teams won't take as long to get us started. We're going to start with the Pinkerton's Cantina division, and it's led off by Lippy. Lippy, Jack will hate it, I'm sure, but Dak for $7 seems at least solid.
Keeper.
But then AJ Brown for 19. Lippy, you want to talk about any other keeper options?
There's Kittle. There's Kittle for I think 40 at draft price. But that's really it. And at the end of the day, we're gonna go Dak and we're gonna go AJ Brown and we're gonna try to make it work.
Well, that about sums that up. Let's get to an even shorter list. Me. We have Chase Edmonds. We have Chase Edmonds for $3, who will...
That's good!
He'll be fine. Right? He'll be fine. And then we've got...
I like how you added Will Fuller for 11 when he's projected to go for like $1 on every single guy.
I know.
Why did you throw him in there?
Because, Kieran, the situation's so bad. Was he
the last one to sign up for the time point?
This is the worst keeper situation in sports.
You would have think you took this team over. You didn't draft this team last year. Construct this keeper situation.
You better believe it. You better believe it, baby. It all goes back to having Matt Forte as my running back keeper, and it's a never-ending shit show since then.
It's a trickle down, A&F. The 1% always stays rich, right?
Get richer, absolutely, Curn.
Can I ask you this, A&F? What if I propose to you? Because obviously, your initial thought was. All right, look. Your initial thought was probably Edmonds and Saquon for market price because obviously Saquon his beefcake thighs, his we don't need to talk much.
His market will hopefully go through the floor by the time we.
But you might find out that maybe he is lingering, maybe he is fucked up, maybe you don't even want to spend the money to keep him. What if you just went into the draft with one keeper in 197?
No, I was gonna say that's almost certainly what I'm doing, because the news about Saquon is literally all just terrible. Like, you want to talk about Gibson's toe? Saquon's news is so much worse than that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'll probably just keep Edmonds and be very sad. I'm not.
Because you don't want to.
I'm not keeping Will fucking Fuller for $11.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
No. I put it on. This is an infliction of pain slide.
That's perfect.
Of course, we do have, in case you've missed it in giant text, I'll mouse over it for you all. Gurley is still available for keeping. He would be a mere $28. He might not get 28 carries this year.
That's just tough to hear.
He'll still out, or at least keep pace with Michael Thomas for touchdowns, though. Moving on to Neal.
Did you know for half the price of Will Fuller added onto that, you could have just gotten JT? Let's go to Neal, though.
Let's go to Neal. I don't have any elite keepers like Marlon Mack, but Neal's got some great keepers. Darren Waller for 8 really jumps off the page here.
That's pretty.
It is pretty. He's got a lot of, I think, nice value finds. I put Mike Evans on market just to show that he's got a long list of options, but I don't think he or really anyone would keep Mike Evans for market. I think Sutton for 23 is kind of a trap, but I like Sutton, but I don't know.
Didn't he trade for Sutton's corpse at week 4 of last year?
I think so. I think
I feel like
he traded with Jonah, right?
He absolutely did, yes.
Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, so
that was I think that was in the Dak trade when him and I traded with that for Dak. Dak and Kittle.
I think so, yeah. Somehow he ended up on a roster and we're all like, why is he? I guess it was the only.
You just wanted him as a throw-in.
Yeah, you never know.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
I really don't think Neal has any options besides Waller and CeeDee Lamb.
I agree.
Amari Cooper, Amari Cooper was the wide receiver 7 off the board last year for $34. So, unless you think we're going to see an inflation in wide receiver values, you're not going to save any money there. Mike Evans, you won't save any money. Sutton, you obviously don't save anything. And then from there, we've already kind of discussed going into the draft without a running back has historically not worked out well. But I think this is probably one of the rare drafts where we have enough rookie running backs and enough running backs that are going to be forced to go to market that you may have a chance to draft appropriately. But yeah, he really is just CeeDee Lamb and Waller is his best setup. Maybe he goes Aaron Jones and Waller. And trades. That's what we haven't gotten into yet is in some of these players' cases, you may really want to keep a running back, but you've got all these better value picks. Find somebody that, has no real value picks, or how I've argued as there's not much of a spread. Neal, if you're listening, trade CeeDee Lamb,
make a trade with A&F
or Darren Waller to A&F or Dustin, and get some extra draft dollars in your pocket or some extra fab, however you want to do it. Keep a running back, keep one of your value pieces, and go in with a little bit of an advantage.
Neal, he's got some options.
Neal, if you're listening, I won't be held hostage by my shitty situation. I set my eyes on elite talent like Jamar Jefferson, so you give me a good offer.
Aaron Jones would be a good keeper if the Packers situation wasn't so fucked right now. Because he's not bad. I love Aaron Jones as a player, but yeah, it's tough.
We will know more this week on that.
I think Darren Waller and CeeDee Lamb's probably what you do here. Old Neal. Neal's nut butters.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good situation, I think.
Why was it nut butter and not nutter butter? I need to know.
Well,
yeah, nut butter sounds a little too gross.
I mean, I initially some behind the curtain stuff. I actually liked Neal's situation so much. This slide was initially titled Neal nuts on your mom. But we decided to edit it to this to kind of pull back a little bit. We'll take that under advisement.
That was your chance to go get sponsored by Nabisco and get us another butter advertisement.
We got ADT this week. We're taking it slow. Hopefully, Roman swipes next week. We'll move on now to Monstar's Mafia.
People's Champ.
People's Champ.
Who wants Monstar to win more than me? Probably no one. I would love Monstar. I would love Monstar to go all the way. He's the one dark horse.
He made like a push last year at playoffs. Monstar, if you're listening to this, we acknowledge it. And then just all of the wind just fell out of the sails all at once, and it was so sad. Because I would have loved that so much more than hearing about the keys to success all off season. I would have just loved that. So Monstar, you're the unfortunate thing is now your window's closed because we're in the same division and you can fuck off.
Is Monstar
kind of like anymore?
Is Monstar kind of like the end of Game of Thrones when it's like who's gonna be the king? It's like why not Bran the Broken? Is he just Bran the Broken?
No, Monstar is much more prime than Bran the Broken ever was or wanted to be. I mean, the Bran the Broken scenes are unwatchable. Monstar winning is hype. But
like, I'm probably the Night King. Jack's probably like, who's the foul king who got killed with the poison?
Joffrey.
He's probably King Joffrey. ANF's probably fucking. I don't know who you are, ANF, but
I'm fucking Hot Pie. I'm fucking Hot Pie is who I am. Oh God. Anywho.
Matt, I can't defend myself because I don't watch Game of Thrones, but
Joffrey's really cool. He's everyone's favorite fucking character, Jack.
Ultimately,
doesn't sound like it.
Ultimately, Jack, you and I are probably the most hated right now in the league. I mean, you know, and then there's probably, you know, ANF who's like Pot Pie, and then there's you know, Lippy who's probably, you know, Lippy's probably a good like Tyrion comparison.
Look, Monstar's my only loss in the past 20 regular season games.
Yes,
like,
that's what you pointed out.
Let's go.
Monstar, congratulations. You ruined the perfect season that has serious merit. Congratulations, sir.
Seriously.
So J.K. Dobbins for $14
in Chimera is what's going to happen here. Almost
certainly. Think so.
Oh, yeah, that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Just got a text from Lippy. I don't know if y'all saw it, but his power went out, so we'll have to continue with Adam.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
So he's not on right now, yeah.
Wait, he's not on?
No.
In the group me, he says power went out, so I guess he's like, I guess he was on his computer maybe, and he's on his phone now.
He was.
He can download Discord, he can get on his phone. I'm on my phone right now, but...
Yeah, I don't know how his signal is. I bet his Wi-Fi's out too.
Yeah, but...
RIP
Lippy. But yeah, J.K. Dobbins and Chimera, I think, is the move. I think especially with Chimera's recent news with the Saints, he immediately
flows through him.
He immediately catapults that CMC-esque tier. I mean, I think you keep CMC over him, but the reason we loved it, Chimera back when was when MT was out and when literally it was just like, I mean, like his game logs were almost comical. And it was like a Madden game, like 15 targets, 18 like, you know, fucking 20 carries, like 5 touchdowns. Like
no,
so.
I mean, I think the Michael Thomas news for me moves Chimera up to. I think he's my RB1 now.
I won't argue with you on that for sure. I mean, like he's the best. Him and CMC are arguably the two best market keepers. So I mean, good for you, Monstar. You get to keep him, and you get to keep J.K. Dobbins, who has upside. I mean, you'll have to be really good with your draft, but I mean, those who keep 2 running backs, the luxury you get is you really just need to focus on drafting good wide receivers and tight ends, and it makes things so much easier than keeping, you know, tight ends and wide receivers trying to hit on running backs.
Monstar, you don't have to hype up and overpay for a running back like I do every fucking year. Like I feel like
you just have them in your pocket.
Yeah, keeping the double running backs, you don't have to buy, you know, fake Gucci at the fucking store. Is what this is. You don't have to buy the fucking knockoff in the Beijing market.
It sucks like watching your tier list just dissipate and you're like, fuck, I should have paid him. Like, it's such a mental game to like, and you're sitting there and like Nick Chubb's the only guy left in like the RB1 conversation. Like, everyone goes and bids on Nick Chubb for like $60. You're like, fuck, Nick Chubb just went for the same price as like, you know, Zeke. And it's like, well, fuck me, you know? So, you don't get to deal with that, Monstar, unless you want to go after one of those guys and be broke. But, you know, different strokes, different folks.
Yeah.
If Monstar's listening, Jarvis Landry, which is not a fantastic situation, but depending on what comes out of camp about OBJ, and the Browns in general, which all seems to be getting, trending positive. He's a $21 keeper that did make the list, and that if you think that's a wide receiver one has some value,
sheesh.
But that's just your opinion.
So much worse, like there's such a list that I would have to make of like things I would rather do than pay $21 for Jarvis Landry.
Yeah,
as
a Jarvis owner,
how big's your list?
I mean, miles long. I own Jarvis Landry and fuckfest, dude. Fuck Jarvis Landry.
I might pay $7 for Jarvis Landry, maybe. You might catch me spending $8 or $10 on Jarvis Landry.
That's fair. I mean, I'm not going to argue that.
Russell Wilson for $7 is not a value, but Jarvis fucking Landry, dude. Come, Jack, we drink different tap water, my man. Oh my god.
I didn't say I didn't say I would pay $30 for Jarvis Landry. I just simply said out loud, Monstar, if you're listening and you think Jarvis Landry is a wide receiver one, there's some value in keeping him for $21.
Monstar, if you're listening and want to give me your house and car, I will accept.
I don't think he owns. Yeah, like This is the difference in just like how we approach keepers. Yeah. One of them is like, do I think that at the end of the day, if Kamara goes for, let's call it, second RB off market, is typically like low 70s, like $71. We've never had a running back. I have a couple leagues pulled up outside of Apex just to see like, hey, has there ever been a running back that's gone for $80 that gets bid up? And the answer is no. So
I'll bid 80
if you think you're gonna save, $10, because that's the spread between Jarvis Landry's value and kind of that like wide receiver 8, wide receiver 10 range. Like, if you think that's achievable, that's a better value than keeping Kamara, and then you go after Kamara in market and you're willing to pay, $77.
You think Jarvis could finish as wide receiver 10?
I'm not saying that completely. It depends on. I said whenever I started that like whole rant that it depends on what happens with OBJ and more news coming out of Browns camp.
Wasn't OBJ gone for like most of the season?
If he's still hurt with a bad ACL, and the Browns are supposed to be as good as they are, it would be nice to have their number one option, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that offense is one of those offenses that's just going to run through the ground so cleanly. But maybe, it's just there's different I guess like strategies and like value drafting is always what most of us do. And I think Jack does it really well too. And I think it's good to do that. But I think when you get to those extraordinary circumstances, Kamara, it's like it may just be Kamara and CMC is like when you're looking at that, you're like, do I want to just eat 70 keeper dollars just to have that asset on my team and like risk that he gets hurt? But like at least at the end of the day, fuck magic you can't control. You need to kind of go into it just kind of saying, this guy's not going to get hurt and just make your, plant your flag. And going into the season with those type of caliber players for any price is it's an argument to be made, but I definitely see where Jack's coming from. I just think Jarvis Landry, I don't know, maybe watch him go off and be the shit.
No, Jarvis Landry's a fucking boner.
I kind of think he's a boner too, but maybe. Look,
ANF, where do you think Jarvis Landry finishes? You put me on the spot with a couple running backs.
I don't mind helping you out with this at all. What he is wide receiver 25 if everything clicks.
Okay.
If everything is great and everything goes Jarvis's way, he gets a juice box and it's got super vitamins in it. He's wide receiver 25. I started that asshole in Fuckfest as a flex almost every week. OBJ was gone and dead, and he probably scored me 4 points total. I am so out on Jarvis Landry this year. He had the opportunity. The Browns were a high win total team. They were a well-running offense for most of the season. Jarvis Landry, if you're listening, go get your money, sir. I'm a big supporter of you getting as much as you can, but holy fuck, wide receiver 1? Get out of town, man. They probably throw to fucking Callaway as much as they throw to that asshole.
Jarvis Landry finish in PPR by year since 2015. 8, 14, 6, 18, 12. Last year, 33.
Last year, 33. That's the only year I've owned Jarvis. Finishes as the wide receiver, 33. So stamp me on the head with the fucking idiot symbol. But I bought into Jarvis last year, and he had no OBJ for most of the fucking year.
Jarvis Landry is. Yeah, it's kind of like drafting like Tyler Boyd or like Brandon Cooks or like one of these.
I'd rather have Brandon Cooks. I'd rather have Brandon Cooks, not close.
I just don't see the
I would
upside.
too, honestly.
I just don't see the upside. It's like what. Like, those players you're not drafting to be, like, top 5 caliber players. Like, you're drafting them just, like, I want this guy to actually score points in my lineup and not bust. And, like, they have their place, but, like, I mean, I personally draft, like, boom, bust. Like, I want to either go all in on a take and be right, or I want to go on a take and, like, miss the playoffs and be like, well, fuck, I mean, like, so... Those kind of players I avoid typically, but I mean, hey, if you want to keep them, that's definitely an option, I guess.
Well, that was a great strategy for you, Curn. Last year, you executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, things happen. Guys got hurt, and
traded Antonio Gibson for a ham and cheese. Let's move on to Timo, who I think has some great keeper situations, and I think Jack will agree with us on this one. Because Jack is a wise man, and this one is so black and white. I feel like Timo's got a couple of routes he can go and be very content. Timo, congratulations. I think you've got one of the best keeper situation in sports today. We've got Tom Brady for $2. The gem of the Nile here is Ridley for 21. Curtis Samuel for $1 is awesome. If you wanted a running back, Zeke for market. We'll have to see where that pans out come draft time. And you've got, I don't really think I'd go Lockett for 18, but I put it in there. Well, I mean, what do y'all think? I mean, I think we talked about this briefly before. Ridley's a must keep, correct?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, you keep Ridley, and then I think what he will do is he will keep Ridley and Zeke just to secure the running back position.
Yep. I think that's a smart move.
I mean, I tend to agree with Jack on the whole QB take when it comes to guys like this, like Tom Brady. Like you're taking Tom Brady for $2. It's probably his fair market value, but you're just taking that to get a QB fill-in position. I'd rather compete with someone on the bidding market for one of those guys who can rush as well and get you that, God-like QB production instead. And then if I miss them, then take someone else like, any one of these other Tom Brady-like guys for $1 or $2. Yeah. I mean, Tom Brady will be a QB1 probably, but you're banking on being really also efficient.
It's a for sure for me, but I totally see it. And if you could go into a draft and have Ridley and Zeke locked up for, I mean, I feel like Jack and I are pretty high on Zeke compared to the rest of the world right now. So we'll have to see where his market is.
I think it'll be like 60.
Did you hear that Zeke is the lightest he's been since college as a freshman?
Yeah, he'll be around 60.
He is going to fly.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Zeke.
Between 60 and 65, I think. I mean, maybe 55 if it just dropped that much. But I think you're still paying $60 to get Zeke. I think you're going to see him.
All right. RB5 and higher last year all went for $66 and up. RB5 and higher in 2019, RB5 was $61, and then even all the way back to the inflation years of 2018,
the keeper bumps.
the RB5 was, that is ugly. I want to make sure I'm counting correctly. The RB5 in 2018 was Devonta Freeman for $57.
Yeah, you'll have that. I think that.
Yeah. Sorry, incorrect. Jordan Howard, $61.
There you go. Yeah, so I think Zeke and Lockett, you get them locked in. You go into the draft with like $110 to $120 in your bank, and you can kind of pick apart the draft that way. Already having 2 studs, I think that's probably the more advantageous path if you want to go value. I think Curtis Samuel for $1. I mean, it's $1. He couldn't go for any less, obviously, and I think he's going to be a good option this year. I I don't see a ton of upside there, really. I don't think that's going to be a high-flying offense, but I mean, it's definitely something. But I mean, Lockett obviously will have his 40-point games. The $18 price tags you're paying, I mean, I think his market price probably goes down from last year, but we'll see. So you have some options, Timo.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're happy and you'll be content just about anywhere you go here, man. Let's move on to Golly.
Jihad's goblins.
Yeah. Jack, I included Mike Williams for $2. I mean, you've got to say that's a serious value, or there's going to be a trade in the works for you to acquire him, right?
No comment.
No comment.
That's fine, Mike Williams value right there for sure. I mean, $2. I mean, look, like we troll Jack for the kid Mike Williams, but I mean, like all the arguments for him are there. I mean, it just depends if he's healthy and if he can actually play a full season and take that load.
But I mean, less than Daniel Jones went for last year. That is
$2 is honestly prime. That's prime money. If you wanted to keep Travis Kelce and Mike Williams just to have 2 slots taken care of, and I mean, obviously
he is not keeping. He is not keeping him. He is. I will.
You don't think he's keeping Travis Kelce?
I'm almost. No, I'm saying he's almost guaranteed to go Chubb Kelce.
He loves Joe Mixon more than I love Joe Mixon. He's had Joe Mixon on his team for a minute, I feel like. Maybe I'm being...
No, he loves Joe Mixon. I always give him crap about how much he loves Joe Mixon.
So I could see him keeping Travis Kelce and, like, texting me a week prior and be like, hey, man, like, is Joe Mixon fucked? And I'll be like, dude, it's like, this is just like another year where they're saying he's the dude, and, like, you're just hopping on the train again like I am. Like, let's do it, and you just do it. But, I mean... $61 Nick Chubb, that's pricey for Nick Chubb. I mean, that's an expensive Nick Chubb. I think I fade that. I think a market value DK, I like to go value on wide receiver personally in redraft, so I'm probably going to fade that. I mean, yeah, Travis Kelce, and I mean, definitely Travis Kelce. Jihad, I mean, you have some options. Maybe just keep Kelce and go into the draft with more money and just make it happen.
I'm saying out there for Golly, if he wants it, I'll come get Mike Williams from him.
There it is. Let's go. I knew we'd either hear about what a good draft this is for Golly, or we'd get an offer for Golly for the asset. Golly, please call Jack at 1-800-JACK-1-THE-SHIP, and you guys can talk business.
I should get like that URL or something. Just redirect you guys with troll memes all the time. Just like bury it as a link.
It's just Jack cheesing with confetti going off. Yeah.
It's like Jack's champion website. Like, oh, great.
On the website, we'll host links to Diggs highlights and
we'll love
the keys to success. Will have its own drop-down tab.
Jack holding a giant
with a write-up on everything.
Yeah.
I do think Golly, just to finish it off, Golly historically he loves to hammer the running backs though. So honestly, it really wouldn't surprise me if he was like, "Fuck it, Curn, just put me in for Chubb Mixon and let's go." Like that's expensive as fuck, but I could totally see.
He's gonna go. Kelce,
he better keep Kelce.
Yeah,
honestly, that's a piece of advice.
Yeah, I would talk him into keeping Kelce. He'll probably keep Kelce. Kelce's going in the first round right now in redraft. That's expensive.
Yeah,
that's the fucking tight end hype, though, dude. People are seeing that, like,
Man, that's free advice. Either if you're not going to keep Kelce, you better go find someone that'll pay you.
Yeah,
because you
could get money out of that.
Yeah, there is an implied spread of value you could get there. Like someone has a bad enough keeper situation that they would pay you.
A&F would come up with a fat sack and be like, "Hey, what's up, dude?"
Like a Piggly Wiggly bag full of Monopoly money to give you.
Yeah, I'll throw in my Darius Slayton jersey with the deal, Golly. Okay, let's move on. Speaking of Jack winning the ship, let's look at Hunter's keepers.
Mr. Runner-Up, the McClendon Mob.
I really only wanted to put the 2, but I decided to include some of his markets, just the 2 markets. Chris Carson and Justin Jefferson for $30 is that is so awesome. That is so clean to me. It is so simple. Like Curn, you should text him like, "Hey, what are your keepers going to be, man?" And 3 seconds later, you should have a response.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Carson's, he's one of those guys that argues like I just don't think he has the ceiling to be a top 5 running back.
I'm
but like
he's so in on Chris Carson this year.
No, but I love him. Like you don't need to hit ceilings on every single position. Like for running back, you really just need someone to be in there. Like you want to hit the ceiling, but like
shit, yeah.
I go for ceiling plays with like other positions, outside of like like I want my running back 1 to be a high ceiling play. Usually my running back 2, but yeah, like I usually want my running back 3 or something to be someone that's just gonna fucking perform. And Chris Carson will definitely be there, getting 100 carries a game, just getting after it for $20. That's clean. Justin Jefferson obviously is fucking awesome. That's such a point spread. Jesus, that is a slam dunk.
I feel like there's going to be some people that are disappointed with Justin Jefferson this year because I feel like his season won't be as good as it was this year. But out of all of the people that will be disappointed in him, Hunter McClendon will not be one of them because he is getting him for $2.
Yeah, it's gonna be second year in the league. I mean, I'm hyped. We'll see.
And maybe he does have an even better season, but even if he has a worse season, Hunter is going to be chilling with Justin Jefferson for $2.
Hey Hunter, here's a free piece of advice. Every single time you've kept a $2 keeper, you get second place. So suck my dick.
Damn. That's some deep next gen stats.
So
the deep analytics.
So runner up in the ship, perhaps you've just been runner up in the draft, Hunter. I don't know. Hunter, drop us some comments of what you think about that statement.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, what does that get your goat? I think this one's over. Let's finish and close off with Jack's Jam. Jack, I'll kind of just let you talk us through this one. I think you're keeping Diggs, but feel free to surprise us.
It's a no doubt to keep Diggs. He's a consensus top 5 wide receiver right now, so I've got a pretty good spread there. The only other, we'll call it asset that I have that I'm considering keeping outside of, I have Derrick Henry for market. That's not on here, and I have Mahomes for $15, in which it just has to. I have to see who's going to keep what, and continue to think about that before that becomes something I'll consider. But I do think that Dalvin Cook probably goes for 70 plus if I let him out. So
I was going to say
I probably keep him and just save the $5 there. Keep Diggs. The spread between $19 and I'm not here to argue is he a good enough wide receiver? I'm not going to come out and say yeah, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver, but he's being drafted like that, and that costs in the mid $40 to $50 range.
Yeah,
to get a top 5 wide receiver.
It's exactly like Hunter. There's going to be people that are disappointed with Diggs this year. Jack's not going to be one of them because he's $19. I was so sure you'd go Diggs and Dalvin that I didn't include Mahomes. I didn't include Henry. This just seems like a really solid, especially after winning, a really solid foundation to start off the draft.
I was thinking just what Jack would do, just knowing that he does hammer the value draft, and I think that Deontay Johnson's a value. I mean, Mahomes is a value, but Dalvin Cook, I'll throw him in there as well. I'm making this list bigger, but I'll stop it now. It's probably Kamara, CMC, and Cook. Those are probably the 2 surefire top 3 running backs you go into a draft. I mean, it may have been Saquon a few weeks ago, but he's kind of fucked up.
Saquon anymore.
Derrick Henry, he's getting older. Can he really? And he doesn't catch passes. Can he keep that momentum going at 28, 29, being a lean rusher? Zeke has his question marks. JT has his question marks. What? He's 28. Yeah, he's getting up there, dude.
Well, because he was in the league for longer, he just wasn't starting. So he doesn't have as much mileage on him as your normal 28-year-old, but he is getting up there in age.
Age is the worst mileage you can have. As someone who is now 27, it hurts so bad. Curn, how bad is 30?
It hurts. Everything's painful. You need to stretch a lot, and you got to stay hydrated.
What is your favorite flavor of Ensure, Curn?
I think that I think you have to keep Dalvin Cook and Diggs. I think thinking it through now, just to get that advantage at running back, because $65 for Dalvin Cook probably is a value. That's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he went for Like I think if you let CMC, Kamara, and Cook hit the draft pool, I think CMC goes for maybe 80. I think that Kamara could go for 75, and I mean Cook could probably go for 75 as well. So,
yeah.
And just the spread plus the talent acquisition, that's like, what potential value you're getting back is like, Dalvin Cook is a daddy, so those are prime keepers, Jack.
The real benefit here is that, I would say that Eckler and Henry, there are a couple, top 10 RBs that someone may be willing to pay, Fab, a draft dollar, $2 draft dollars to have them locked up and not overpay or not be in a position to have to bid and, rid themselves of another keeper situation where they don't have really any spread to market. So
you could trade
that
them.
happens.
Yeah,
that happens for a couple people. It's just really hard. Like, it's not a good liquid market, right? Like, if we run back through it, right? Like, Dustin maybe has one slot.
Yeah.
Kcole doesn't. Corman probably doesn't.
That's the argument against the whole fucking keeper bump is like, no one's going to go pay Jack and Arm and a leg to keep these guys. Like, the only guys you're going to really pay to keep are those high frequency players at the very top where it's like, they could pop off and really change your roster, which is, if you look back at the keeper haters and everything about the keeper bump, they were all pointing to those top guys. It's like, I mean, yeah, maybe there, I'm getting, Jack's getting, a couple bucks saved here, but it's like, no one's really going to pay. I mean, you'll get something back for those guys. Like, you might go to A&F and be like, hey, I'll let you keep Eckler if you give me, I don't know, what would you trade to get Eckler A&F? Like, some Fab? Would you trade draft bucks for the right to have Eckler on your team?
A&F loves trading 69 Fab. I'm stepping in before him right there.
I mean, I've traded 69 Fab for much worse than Eckler. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and that's honestly, Fab is such an asset in redraft as well too. So it's such an asset.
But
that first one is juicy as hell.
It also depends. Just real quick, like what the market price is for some other people's keepers, right? Like I was running through it, and if this is nothing against you in terms of your keeper situation, right? But it's like,
there is plenty against me in my keeper situation.
It's tough. Like you are the only clear. You should probably go out and source somebody who's going to get rid of a third keeper and let them go to market.
Fucked. I am fucked. Who am I going to keep?
Exactly. But no, that's the thing is instead of
going to the market to go buy
one, instead of going into the draft with one keeper, we kind of went over your situation. Like you're probably your best entry into the draft is probably one keeper, Chase Edmonds, and then start with $197.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens with Saquon, right? Like that's just a value determination between you and where Saquon's market price is and Eckler's market price or someone else, and you're like, hey, I'd rather do that. For the next one that I'm going to argue other than Dustin, who I was like, I wouldn't keep Russ because I think that's going to be the same price, is maybe Golly, depending on what Nixon's market price is, and if we really think Chubb is worth $61.
Yeah,
I don't.
Where is Chubb for y'all? Is RB finish?
I mean,
he's probably 5 or 6 for me. I'm really up on him.
You think he's top 5?
I think top 5. I think 5 is probably his peak for me, and then 12 is probably his floor.
Because he's probably NFL caliber, pure rusher. He's probably a top 3 running back.
He's fucking incredible. Yeah.
He's so beefy between the tackles. Just you have Kareem Hunt back there, and I mean, but at the same time, they run the ball so fucking much. I think he's definitely an RB1. He's definitely a top 15 at the his floor is top.
I think 13, it's a no-brainer to keep him for 61.
That's just expensive for me. I mean, that's
so close.
Curn, what are you talking about?
I would rather keep Joe Mixon and take the bite and just say he's going to be a 3-down back.
Because you have a problem in your brain, Curn, and you like Joe Mixon hurting you.
Maybe I do end up
Joe Mixon? This is ridiculous. What do you mean?
Giovanni Bernard's gone. They beefed up the offensive line. They got another weapon. It's
Did you just say Giovanni Bernard is gone?
Yes, that's a big deal, A&F.
Curn, you valued Giovanni Bernard. I had to beg you to take a shithouse 4th-round pick. What do you mean, Curn? Oh, Mixon's value really goes through the roof now that this shithouse running back that's aged 5 years old. What the fuck?
I'm being the devil's advocate. I'm telling you that is the rhetoric going around right now. And honestly, when you look at them both, they're both probably Chubb goes ahead of Joe Mixon in ADP, probably in the draft. But I mean, would you rather pay $60 for Chubb, who you know is just going to be in there, kind of like a Derrick Henry light, but like
you just said,
with Kareem Hunt back there, or do you pay market price, probably like a $40 to $50 Joe Mixon, and just hope to God he gets after it again?
I would not draft Joe Mixon. No, I was going to say I wouldn't draft him for 25. I'd draft Joe Mixon for 25.
You would happily go into the draft and take him for $40. Don't even cap. Stop the cap.
I'd take him for 40. I don't think his market's 40 though.
Y'all wouldn't pay $40 for.
Listen, hold on before you get too far down that path. Is that there are 9 running backs that went for, like, and it's wild what our drafted last year. And I'm not saying this is going to be exactly how it goes this year, but I've got 9 running backs over $50. RB10 was Josh Jacobs, and he went for $40. Like there's an impending cliff of where people are willing to pay for things, and so my advice.
But that's also not top 10 talent wise. What we're projecting now, you have to also consider all the keepers, and
we have one keeper that's in the top 10, arguably in there, and that's Derrick Henry at 25. Austin Eckler was at 10, but he didn't even come close to panning out to that.
Maybe I don't think anyone is like a top 12 guy. I'm just look. I'm here for it, baby. Let it rock. I mean, you'll see if I'm fully in for it, because now, luckily, I'm keeping 2 running backs. I don't have to be as hungry for fucking Joe Mixon at $40. But maybe if I'm sitting there and y'all are all fucking
every year.
You what?
Don't you keep 2 running backs every year?
No,
yeah, he's going to do it again.
Times.
When did you keep a wide receiver?
Last year. I kept Godwin and CMC last year.
Oh, but I mean, your Godwin keep very yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, really
cool. And I kept that, and then I traded him for McLaren soon after. But I mean,
yeah, really good trade that was.
But if you go back to the years I always kept 2 running backs. I mean, I've led the league in points 3 years back to back. I'm usually in the playoffs. I've won 3 championships.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to do some cool draft stuff on the next show, and we've got a rumor that a certain doctor who might have his license taken away will join us soon. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe.